you got into modeling, and that obviously can be a wonderful world, but it can be a murky world as well. Tell us a little bit about that and the disordered eating that it led to.
Listen, moving to New York, it's like you get a lot of people that were told they were so, beautiful, all these things from all the small towns, and then you put everyone together and it's just you're just like in active comparison mode all day. At least I was. I'll definitely
Yeah.
speak for myself. And it just felt like every casting I went on, I was just looking around the room. It became so much more of this like external
Mm.
career instead of me like going in here and doing the work. I was always so focused on how tall someone was, how thin someone was. But at that time, I mean, this was such a different time in the modeling world. This was
Mm.
really pre social media, especially Instagram, was just it, those things mattered at that time. There's been such incredible shifts in the industry, thank God, with just more like love and acceptance, no matter
Mm.
all shapes, sizes, and that's a beautiful thing. But it was a different world when I was like really trying to get signed by an agency. And then once I did, well, I was told that I had to lose 15 pounds first, and 15 pounds is a lot of weight.
Mm.
But it became like my mission once again, because I think it just made me feel like I was more valued if I did that. And that definitely started this spiral of a disordered connection with myself and the way that I was working out, the way that I was eating. Everything became really obsessive and extreme. I mean, there were times when so I was working at the makeup counter, got a job as a cocktail waitress at a nightclub, started working in nightlife. Then I got signed to a top agency. One of the top agencies in New York at the time was still one of the top agencies today. And I was able to let, you know, working at the beauty counter go because I was making real
Mm.
money. But it was like I was working all night and then I would sleep for just a few hours. I would get up, I would pack a duffel bag to go into the city because I lived in Queens at the time. And I would put my bag in the locker at a gym that I was a member at. And then I would go and I would like run Central Park, like
Wow.
all the way around Central Park. And then I would go to the gym and I would like work out for an hour and a half. And that was so normal for me. That was just like another day. And then I would go on castings and then I would take my duffel bag and I would go straight to work. It was just, I mean, it was beyond burning the candle on. I was just like burning the candle in every
Mm.
possible direction in my life, but I was 20 something. So,
Mm.
like what you can get away with then is so different than, I mean, I'm in my 40s now. I'm like, I can't, like, even thinking about it, I start to get really anxious and I'm like, how did I do that to myself? But it was like that hustler, that survivor, just doing anything and everything that I could. And it it started to really affect like the way that I started looking at myself, and it became really extreme where I would be like so strict and then I would go out and I would just like binge eat like crazy, and
Mm.
like that guilt started weighing on me. So I just started purging, and it was more of this idea for me. It was like I had to let it go
Mm.
because I felt like it was just like this guilt and the shame, and then what happens after you do that? You feel more guilt and more shame,
Mm.
but it became this vicious cycle where I think for some people, when you're in that place, I told myself, because it wasn't happening every single day, it was sometimes seldom, and then sometimes it was frequent, and it was kind of this roller
Mm.
coaster, but I was doing it, and it was a problem that eventually I always kind of came back to, but I just kept that deep inside. I never wanted anyone to know that. I think one thing I've always been good at is hiding my pain
Mm.
because I never wanted to look less than perfect
Mm.
in people's eyes. That was always important to me. And then, you know, I was just hurting myself in return.
And when did that change? When did you decide I can't do this anymore? I can't live like this.
It was a real like rock bottom moment for me after just like living that cycle of partying, binging, staying out late, watching the sun come up, and I'm like on the bathroom floor, like purging, and just like this disgust and this like it was more just like this weakness of like I can't do this, you know? And I just remember looking myself in the mirror and just being like, I hate you. Like I
Mm.
hated myself. And I knew I couldn't keep going. It was like, this is no way to live. This is going to end really badly. And I've talked about this a few times, but it was like I had this vision. Like it was weird. It was almost like it was a real kind of spiritual awakening
Yeah.
now that I have such an incredible spiritual practice, but just like appreciation too for
Mm.
just intuition
Mm.
and listening to yourself and this inner knowing and just you know the higher power and
Mm.
feeling guided in life. I saw this visual where it was like there was this tree, but there was two roads, and it was like you can keep going. Like you can keep going down this path and you are just going to rip everything, you know, destroy everything along the way. It was just like that road of mass destruction. Or I can change and I can ask for help and I can choose differently. It became so clear in that clouded moment that I was in. And I just remember like it was like that was it. And I was like, okay, I need help. I am in a bad place. And it's hard to admit that to yourself. A lot of people live a life of lying to
Mm.
themselves. And it's because we don't want to face
Mm.
the reality of the pain we've caused ourselves
Mm.
and for taking real ownership. I had to own the fact that I got myself there. And I think a lot of us play the blame game on, well, this is how I grew up. And I am not here to ever take away the fact that there is real trauma
Mm.
there. But at what point are you going to take control of over your own life?